I'm going to go over why IEE is a really bad typing for me by different models of socionics. So let's first start with modern socionics, where the ignoring is treated as something that is avoided from paying attention to, or even as a weakness in some other ones. I am always noticing the trends and timing of things and when things happen, how they develop and progress, and even my organ system is built on phases of personality and how they pass along different centers of personality and transform and evolve in different time points. And IEE would not have made a model that is so focused on developments and the timing of where things arrive. I have a very keen sense of time, and I'm never late. I always even wait. My unconscious wakes me up. I don't even need an alarm very often for waking up, even though I set it just in case, because that 20% of the time I don't wake up, I just need to be up. I have a very rich inner life. I am not detached from my inner life. TE, hidden agenda, is extremely bad for me. I am not good at managing things. I am not practical. And you would say, you can say this all you want, but I never know when to start things. I never know how to, externally manage my environment. I never know how to do things efficiently. And that was documented in my special educational paperwork growing up. The second, I do not have one-dimensional SI. I'm able to comfort my body and sustain basic health relative to when I am not in active flare-ups of health. I have genetic conditions and trauma-induced disorders. So that wouldn't count because anybody could be sick and suffer with that. Then with autism sensory problems, that's going to be even more. An even bigger problem for typing the IEE, and this is the biggest problem, and this goes for any model of socionics, is that my FE is not always conspicuous. I'm not automatically expressive. All extroverts have 4-dimensional FE, all of them, and that means that their FE is a bold function. The matter that people always mistake me as being inexpressive, and my expression is relative to the environment, that is cautious usage of FE. If I were truly extroverted, ethical, this goes for EIE or IEE. And this also applies to classical socionics, like I said, all models. My FE would be one of my most blatant functions that I could recognize. And yet I'm often not expressive and have a detachment to me. I need certain environments to bring out the expression in me. That is an inert subtype, for one thing. But even an IEE would not have that. A demo FE, it would come off effortlessly and always be on. So that is the biggest reason why IEE is a really bad typing for me, as it goes with all forms of models. Now, with classical socionics, even though rational type is not the best choice for me, EII is very feasible for my own self. I fit the accepting and producing placements of EII, the whole rational NF is what that would be. I have producing NE and producing NI in that model. In that model, at least, because they tweak things in different models differently. And the fact that I even am aware of this would probably be normative TI level. It's not just dimension of experience TI. Like I'm, kind of absorbing that rule. That's not something an IEE would do. So I can also fit accepting SI kind of, but other aspects can fit producing. Other functions, EII's functions are fine with accepting producing. My NE is producing, my NI is producing. My inner life, having a very original, developed inner life that is devoid of external information. That is producing NI because it is original and does not come from the psychic screen of an accepting placement. As far as The NE, I gave you an example a few days ago where I was with my new caregiver and she could not get out something from the stove. So this was not something that would be in the psychic screen. It was an original usage of NE, and you could argue mental that I saw it. So I realized she was not going to be able to get it out. So what I did was I flipped the object, realizing the potential, I didn't really think too much of it, I guess you could say. But I was there in something that I realized, right? Which, yeah. So I flipped the broom and got the small side so it could fit in there. That's NE. And that is not accepting NE, because accepting NE would not be able to really do that. Because accepting NE goes with what is in the social norms, and it is not original. It does not come from the person's own thinking. The producing functions are what come from the person's own thinking. So this is where my NE would be producing, and also with my organ system, original realizations of inner content. This would be producing NE. IEE is not a type that I could be in any model. Even in Telenov, I would not be in IEE. In no model am I in IEE. I do not ignore an I, and that is why I could not be in IEE in Telenov. The only system that I considered I could be IEE in was Model G, because I thought SI Optimum could make sense for myself, and TI Launcher could make sense for myself. Because TE Launcher is what I meant. TE Launcher has weak TE in the energy expression, and SI Optimum is a very strong enthusiasm of the SI. So that is why I considered IE for myself in Model G, IE harmonizer. However, it really does not make sense to my own self to have SE adaptation block. That's another reason why IEE is a horrible typing for me. I do not have normative SE. I do not have aesthetics or willpower in the social norms. Even like the scientific knowledge, I don't absorb information on science per se, only with very limited autism fixations, and that would just have to do with specialized interests of autism. There are so many reasons why I do not fit SC normative. My appearance and aesthetic sensitivities, they are not from social norms, and they are not the psychic stream. They are original. They are fixated on in a very rigid way, which fits more of the EII's placement of SC and SCS. I do not have willpower, and I cannot exert myself. I need somebody to activate me into action. I cannot do it on myself. And in IEE, even if you read Ashura's IEE, they mobilize their own self and others into action, and they are often very thin by how often they move. Of course, that's probably just a stereotype that could be broken. But I do believe there is truth in how active the IEE is supposed to be, granted good health. And even in good health, I am far from active. So that is why IEE is not an option for me in any model of typology. It's a horrible typing for me.